Welcome everyone. This week we have a lot of material to cover and it may look very daunting, but we are going to use the 4-value landscape, and that's the 3 values in the body and the 1 value for emphasis. Each one of your values should be on a separate layer. All the painting that we're going to do should be quite easy because you're just filling each layer, a value, whatever value it is, with a color. So we are going to create about, I'd say, 6 paintings for sure, and some of you will create more. So let's get started. We're going to look at colorists and how they use values versus the realistic. You're going to use that in order to create an analogous color scheme, a complementary color scheme, a split complementary color scheme, a high-key painting, and a low-key painting. A colorist versus a realistic painter is someone who uses, as you can see here, really intense colors, and they use saturated colors, brilliant colors, but they all have the correct value. These colors have the correct value that make that scene or portrait or whatever work. And person has to be very skillful understanding value and color. When looking at this particular portrait, I notice the little bits of color, very, very vivid, saturated, and I wonder whether this works or not. And you have to put it to grayscale to truly understand if it does or not. And you have to do this probably for many paintings and keep toggling back and forth to make sure that you have the right value. And if I do that, you can see that the grayscale holds together perfectly. Even though when I look at the actual color saturation that they've used, the brilliance of the color, I can see the separate colors quite easily. But the value is correct and it fits right in. And this will too. I'm looking at 2 different monitors, so you may find slight differences, but this is a color that I keep going back to. It's on her cheek and I wouldn't think that that would fit in that spot. But when you actually do the grayscale, yes indeed, it does fit. And that is the really important aspect of this, is to understand that color and value are related, and that you can have a very saturated color as long as it's the right value, and it will work. And if I squint at this color piece, the color is subdued, but the value stays and you can see it coming together. And when I open my eyes, I can either look at it as a whole, or I go around and I actually stay on this portrait because I am looking at all the beautiful color areas. So again, you can have any color you want as long as it's the correct value, and the painting should work. Here again, very vivid colors. I'm not sure that I would think that these would fit properly, Is anything standing out? Is this value look out of place with the others? I would almost think it was. But when I go to the grayscale, one is more vivid than the other, but they work. They are the same value with a little dark edge going between them. This painting, I'm attracted to the blue, the light blue, and it just hits me. First thing I saw when I picked this painting, and I suppose it's because it's got so much orange in it that this stands out even more, but it's a very vivid blue, and I wouldn't have thought that that would have the right value. But when you turn it to grayscale, yes, it does. It does work. And I also would have thought that this was too vivid, which made it too light. And again, in the grayscale, it works. It takes a lot of knowledge to know that that color actually is the correct value. And you can gain that knowledge and understanding through practice. Here, I just took my landscape and I just put the three values plus a little bit of the emphasis value, and just put three colors together, the right values, but just random. And it does fall into place. If I squint, yes, it does work. So what is more important is that the value is correct and you can pick any color you want and put it together, and you'll see if something is pleasing or not. The artist's color wheel, we know, we'll just go over it quickly. We know the primaries, red, yellow, blue. We know the complementary color of the primaries are the secondaries, and that's orange for blue, yellow is violet, and red is green. The tertiaries are in between the primary, a primary, and a secondary. So in this particular, with these three, red, red, orange, and orange, in the middle is red, orange. And how you name that is you take the primary color and put it first, and then the secondary. So it's red, orange. If we take blue and go this way, we have blue and violet, and in the middle is blue violet. So that's a naming convention. If we're looking at color schemes, harmonious color schemes, the very first one is that we're going to deal with is analogous color scheme. That refers to three colors that lie side by side on the traditional color wheel. And in this case, it's red, violet, violet, and blue violet. And here is just a little example of using more realistic values, but analogous, and not being too fussy about it. This week's assignment is exploratory, so you can do a number of these. This is just more realistic color, which means there's a lot more gray in it. And if I squint, yeah, I can see that it does work. If you want to go the colorist way rather than realistic, you can use more saturated colors. Find out how that works. Again, all you have to do is make sure that you have the correct value. I don't think this is the final one that I went with. These three are okay, but this one isn't, unless that must have been it. It's just not showing here. Okay, complementary color scheme. Complementary color scheme, you have a color that lies across on the opposite side of the color wheel, and so they call it complementary. It's the probably most common color scheme used by artists because it works. Then we're going to use a split complementary color scheme in one of our landscapes. And a split complementary occurs when you pick a color, then go to its complement, and in this case green, so we're going to red, but then we choose the color to the right and to the left of it. So we have red orange and red violet. So that's a split complementary color scheme. We are then going to take that same landscape and we're going to change the values of it. And again, you do this with your bucket tool, and it's really easy to do. So a high key color painting, the value goes from, I'm going to say, 45 to 5% of black. So it's very much on the lighter side of the value scale. And in this particular one, the values are pretty close together. And again, it just depends on your monitor. Okay, so if you have that value, those values set close together, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to it. So I want you to try that. Then we're going to go to a low key painting, and you're going to pick values that go from 55 to 95. So anywhere in there, you're going to pick 3, and your light again will be closer to the 50. It probably will look like it's moonlit. So, all right, so let's just recap this. You will be creating a colorist painting that's going to show that you understand saturation with values, certain values, wall values. And then you're going to use an analogous color scheme for another painting. And you can try a number of them. If you do a whole bunch of different ones and you want to hand them in, please do. But I'm requiring one. And you can either go analogous and use the colorist method, or go more realistic in your choice of colors. You're going to do a complementary color scheme. Again, choosing colorist method or a realistic use of color. And then the split complementary, colorist or realistic. High key painting and the low key painting. And it will be really interesting to see how much you have learned even just by the end of this exercise. The most time-consuming part, I think, will be creating the color that represents the value and getting that correct. And so there will be a template. I will place on it, screened in the background, where you're supposed to put things. And I wish you a lot of luck with this. It is imperative that you understand how color and value are connected. And in our next videos, we'll be dealing with mood and temperature. Once you learn values, then we can manipulate it to create a story. So, as always, what you put in, you get out. And I really look forward to seeing what you do in this one. Good luck.